Reilly Sasse with River.
Red River, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, Red River. What is it? Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but the Red River, I used to live, it was in my backyard. And it was the Red River of the North, not the Red River down in Texas, but the Red River in North Dakota. But you're talking about the Red River in Wyoming here. So just a little bit of history of the name, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, to tell you the truth, there's nothing cool about the name.
You just
we were just having a family argument, and we wanted it to be something simple, and we're like, well, Red River. Yeah, let's do Red River. Sounds good.
Well, I think it's genius because not only do you catch the attention of people in North Dakota, but you catch the attention of people in Texas.
Yeah.
Was that by design, or was that just basically just the one of the nice offshoots that organically came from the name?
Yeah, I would say that it was luck of the draw because there's pros and cons to all those things. We do catch the attention, like you said, but then the other thing is there's a billion Red Rivers online. So when you Google it, it's actually kind of hard to find us. So we've had to really work on our keywords, so our name comes up.
I get that. So talk to me about those keywords. What are some of the things, bullet points that you want people to know about Red River, and then of course transition that into what the services are you offer.
So the biggest thing is, and it sounds cliche, but we like to say that we care more. And so a lot of what I tell people is that we don't just bid every single RFP that comes through our office, but we're focused on a few larger clients so we can really get in their head and understand their business and bring true value. It's hard to bring value to 1,000 people because you got to understand them all, right? And so that's been our strategy, is to serve a few larger clients and serve multiple areas of their business so we can really get in their heads. So
yeah, talk to me about that value a little bit. It's you're finding success in, we used to call it the velvet glove, the white glove treatment, to where less client, was it Jerry Maguire even? I think he had a whole movie based on that. Less clients, more attention towards the clients, and then he got fired for that. So you're kind of going against the grain here.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's not that we're going to turn people down, but we're going to take a really hard look at whether we can bring value. And when we meet with a new company to see if we're going to do some work for them or whatever, before we even approach and we look at their core values, we look at who they are, we meet some of their people and try to get to know them a little bit and make sure that there's actual chemistry. Because I view it no different than if I'm just going to go work, get a 9-to-5 job, and I got to like my boss. I got to like who I work for. I got to make sure I have the same core values and I'm going to fit in that company. And so we take a hard look at all that because that's key to make sure that we can make them happy.
I know, I get it. I mean, it's refreshing actually to hear that type of business ethics and value system still is out there today. I mean, there's, we live in an instant oatmeal society where 20% profit isn't even good anymore. It's got to be 120% profit. And that, was a change that happened in the last 10 years very quickly. And so people have become very cutthroat in business. People have become, I like to call them chuck and jivers. It's a term from, the old 70s WKRP in Cincinnati. There was and this is when I was a real little kid. I mean, I'm surprised I even remember it, but there was a salesman, Herb Tarlick, who had like just outrageous sports coats, and he was kind of a chuck and jiver type thing. And we were talking a little bit about this before, about how, the industry does a really good job of weeding it out. And I like what you're doing on the upfront side, because really what you're talking about is more of a communication and a coexistence of personalities. Are they going to mesh? Because as well as I do that if they don't, you might have a 6-month to a year business relationship, but it's probably going to end sour. Do you know what I mean by that?
Right, exactly. We try to exercise the foresight a little bit, And
yeah.
It's really worked well in the long run. I mean, because the thing is you got human nature involved, and that's what's, that's what, a lot of these issues, we like to say that 90% of issues in business come down to people, and people are almost always the solve for any issue. But what I'm getting at is that you have human nature involved, and if people don't like each other and they're forced to pretend like they like each other all the time, it's not going to be as productive and valuable as if they actually do like each other. I mean, it sounds kind of simplistic, but it's a big deal, I think. I mean, I got to like who I'm working with and enjoy their company and work, at least be on the same playing field,
No, I get that, and it's interesting because it's hard for some people to conceptualize that or visualize that, probably because they've never taken the walk before. But when what you're talking about is not easy, it's not easy because there's tough decisions. There's sometimes group votes that might not go in the way that you want. And what are some of the challenges, I guess, that you've had with this mission and core that you guys have? Making sure that every deal that you do is a right fit. Because, like you said, this is not an arrogance thing. This is just trying to have a foresight for both sides thing.
Right, exactly. Well, there's always the deals where, sometimes you have a deal that doesn't go how you want. You end up losing money on it, or, you don't make as good a profit as you hoped and whatnot. But we got to look at that as like, we're playing the long game here, Sometimes we miscalculate, and we got to suck it up and keep rolling for the customer, I suppose that's probably one of the challenges. The other challenges that come with it, internally and externally, is that it does narrow the playing field of who you're going to play with. And so, it makes our sales cycle really long. So if we take on a new client, we do quite a bit of research on who we're actually going to target, and then, it takes a while to get them on board. And we try to understand. Here's another little challenge that just popped in my head too that comes up, is that we try to tailor our whatever you want to call it, our standard operating procedures to fit theirs as well, to an extent, right? I mean, you can't tailor your business to be the same as everybody else's, but we try to understand their operating procedures internally so that our processes at least mesh, and like, we don't want to make their life harder and make more work for them internally. And so we spend a little time there and understand how they like to see things, even paperwork wise. Maybe it's formatting the quality control books that come with our products, so it can create a little more work, but we think it pays in the long run.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I'm kind of switching subjects. If you had a question, I was going to just talk about getting employees, but
sure, yeah. No, I was going to ask you where you're based out of, and yeah, I'll tell you what. Why don't you start with where you're based out of and kind of your service range, and then you can transition that into employees.
You bet. So we're headquartered in Gillette, Wyoming, and we have a shop in North Dakota and Williston as well. Right now we're kind of spread out in Gillette. We've got 4 different shops, and we're working on moving into a bigger one where we can put everything together. Our basic model is fab and ship, and we back it up with a guarantee that anything we fab, if it doesn't fit, it will get fixed for free, and it'll get fixed yesterday. So, and that's to combat the naysayers on prefab. But otherwise, yeah, we ship stuff all over the place. I mean, we're shipping skids to Colorado, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana. We've done work in South Dakota. We've shipped product to Washington State, even different places all around. So yeah.
How was that shipping to Washington? How was that shipping to Washington State? Was there any issues with that? I know they've got some accelerated regulations on things.
Yeah, they do. They got insane regulations.
Insane or accelerated, they both work.
Yep. It depends on what it is. I mean, our product was small enough where, It wasn't a big deal. I mean, if you get into overweight and overwidth and stuff like that in Washington, they're obviously a little tougher to deal with. So ours was more of a specialty technical fabrication for a hydroelectric plant they were putting together.
Okay, I see. Talk to me a little bit about who your customer is, what type of products you've made for customers, et cetera, like that.
So we're a skid shop, design build skid shop, and we work for what we'd like to describe as the larger, forward-thinking oil companies. So we try to stay away from the accentuated, this is how we've always done it type people, and try to work with the larger outfits that are open-minded to new ideas and things like that, because that's kind of our, we're a bunch of young guys and we like a challenge, and we hate the status quo. So everything that we do, we're always looking at it to see if there's a better way or a more efficient or more valuable, or that's part of the fun, so.
I like that. We at the Crude Life, we are very much on the same page of that, and sometimes we find that scares people, and I don't know if it turns them off, but I've been told, sometimes it comes across as a little aggressive. It comes across as not cocky, but it comes, it just scares people because, like I said, I don't think they've walked that walk of just, having a progressive mind and having an open mind. Doesn't mean you're going to land on that. It doesn't mean you're going to, decide that's the way to go, but to even have that open mind. Right. Have you find that some companies are a little bit intimidated or a little bit afraid or a little bit standoffish by that mindset?
Well, it's not easy to answer without stereotyping, but we've found that it's typically the smaller outfits that, well, yeah, I'll just stop there. We've been very impressed with some of the larger businesses.
That surprises me, actually. I would have thought it'd be the flip.
Yeah, they have a lot of younger talent moving in.
I see.
With a lot of ideas, and
that's what it is.
They're open to stuff. And the other thing is that if we first get them to understand that we're not just chucking ideas at them and then they're going to be on their own, that's one thing. But if they can understand that we're going to be there with them, and like when they install that skid 5 years from now, if they call us, we're going to be here and we're going to pull up the old prints and we're going to understand it and help them solve the issue. You know what I mean? So it's not like, we're here today, gone tomorrow type of thing. And that when they see that helps as well, because our goal is the same as theirs, is that we want uptime on the equipment. And so, because obviously we're in the same boat there, is that if we sell them a piece of equipment and they don't have uptime, that means we're going to be out there as well. So we want it to work.
Reilly Sasse on the line with us with Red River. You guys have a website?
Yes, sir. It's redriver.team.
Redriver.team, huh?
Yeah. .coms are getting more and more rare.
I know. I mean, I joked to someone the other day. I said, somebody asked me about a website name, and it had I think a hyphen in it or something like that. And I said, I would much rather do a sentence than a hyphen, meaning like, this is my website. This was the only thing left.com, type of a thing.
Right, yeah.
They are all taken.
Yeah, a hyphen just kind of says that. Like, if you see a hyphen, you just automatically think that they couldn't find anything.
Well, it's tough because how do you tell somebody, verbalize when you got to say hyphen? It's such a break in the thought process and everything. So, and people in marketing know what I'm talking about. People who have hyphens in their website are probably small business owners, and they're like saying, oh, it works fine. And it does. It works fine. It's on a website and people will type it in, but it's just an extra step. That's all. So .team, I've never even heard of .team. I've heard of .us. I've heard of .ca, .gov. How .team, that's an interesting, whatever they're called, suffix.
We could have got a .com, but it was It was back when the .coms were already starting to get used up, and we could have got it, but I just thought, well, why fight it? Why not? Let's get something memorable, something that's a little more modern than that, So I thought, what if there's a .team? And sure enough, it was there, and so we went with that, and it's it's easy to remember. So
it is. I remembered it, and it's different. It's progressive. It's exactly what it is. It's I think it's very intuitive the way things are going. I was just having a conversation about how there's such a push for teams these days that even in schools you don't sit in an individual desk anymore. You sit in tables with teams of people, and
right.
So it's the way of the future, man. Talk to me a little bit about your aspirations. Are you guys, the Rocky Mountain region? It sounds like that's what you're servicing right now. Are you looking? You said Washington, but are you looking at some of the other shale plays like down in Texas or Oklahoma or anything?
Not yet. We are fairly aspirational, so I guess it could change pretty easy. But right now we're just focused on the Bakken and Powder River and the DJ. And so, but we've got a lot of growing to do, and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We want to grow in terms of technology as well. So, we're looking at robotics and things like that. And we think that we don't want to get geographical growth in front of expertise. And so right now, we grew a lot in the first 5 years. We doubled our revenue almost every year, and then we decided that we're going to focus on internal growth for a little while here and throughput, and then we'll see what the next chapter brings,
What can you talk to me about the robotics part? Is that, it sounds like it's in a discussion phase, or is there something that's even, do you got something in the shop already, or talk to me a little bit about robotics?
Nothing in the shop yet. We're still trying to decide which product to go with, but basically it just comes down to competitiveness,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all, these big companies, the big outfits are going to fab on all their facility builds, and we like to think we've been part of it, and we have. We worked for several larger companies through the transition from on-site build to prefab and bolt up, and as people get on board, the numbers get driven down, and so we've got to find ways to stay on top of it, and really that's what robotics comes down to. And part of it is just the workforce is always changing, and we feel like it fits with the workforce and that as well. And so it's a step in the right direction. But we also just got our ASME stamps last year, and so we're doing a lot of vessels, and that opened up a lot of doors for us too. But we're trying to focus more and more on more technical, complex skid projects. So,
well, the thing about robotics that gets me is it reminds me of a conversation I had this week with a gentleman in the UAS drone industry. And with robotics right now, there's so many different directions you can go. It's hard to focus, and that's kind of what I interpreted from what you were saying. What direction, where the profit's at, where the marketplace is, where the need is. And this drone guy I was talking to, he said, I've sat in more meetings where I've talked myself out of a close because you can do so much with them. The other person, they don't have any focus. The client that he's pitching with these drones, they don't know what to do with it. They just know they need to do it. And so if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, you can talk yourself out of a close really fast. You know what I mean? Because we can do it. But then all of a sudden, reality starts setting in, and people start realizing, okay, let's just scrap this and go from square one, or whatever the case is. Do you know what I mean by that? Are you experiencing that at all? There's just so many options and so many directions to go in robotics that it almost seems like you just have to focus before you can take that next step.
Well, some of it, to a degree, but really, if we look at what we're trying to achieve, what our deal is we need consistency in production. We got to eliminate busts and welds, basically. So
okay.
We're evaluating the different products against that, which are they user friendly, how long does it take to train our guys to run them, and how consistent they are. And then what's funny, we're also discovering, this is a little different deal, what we're discovering is that some of the weld procedures are so advanced that some of the customers, we're actually going to have to do a fair amount of teaching because they're not up to speed. Like, they're a little bit ahead of their time. They still have a lot of stick and wire procedures in their systems. And so even though these may be higher quality, better procedures, they're new and people don't have their heads wrapped around them yet. So there's actually going to be a little bit of that once we get set up.
That's pretty exciting. Do you guys have a timeline in mind? I know it's still discussion phase, but I imagine you're, a year, 2, 5 years.
Oh no, we're real close. We'll be rolling stuff through the shop, and we'll have some robotics set up by the end of the year.
Oh, great. Okay,
so,
that'll be fun to.
Well, our biggest issue, we haven't done it right now, is just we don't have enough room. We've outgrown all our shops, and so once we get consolidated and moved into a new location, then we'll be able to get it going. So
okay. What else you got going on the horizon in terms of innovation? Are you guys looking at anything else, or is there anything that's really helped your business from the innovation side of things in the last few years?
Innovation-wise, I suppose just keeping track of the market and where it's going. I mean, nothing too complicated there. There's always a steady stream of new technology that we can use in the business. But our biggest focus has always been, and probably always will be, is on the people, just because that's your lifeblood, and we like people, and we spend a lot of time and energy and technology on our company culture and promoting our team. I feel like that's where you can spend your dollars for the best bang for the buck.
All right, I'd like to give guests the final word. If there's something that we didn't talk about, or something they want to reiterate, or even if they want to give a good chili recipe, whatever, I'll just kind of let people go with whatever direction they want to go on the final question. That way it's not directed or framed by me, if you will. So the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, that's about it, man. We pretty well covered it. I guess the only other thing I'm thinking about is just what I was talking about a minute ago, is company culture. I think the industry has a big challenge in front of them with this whole baby boomer thing, and so that's been a big focus of ours. Is how are we communicating? How are we attracting people to our industry, and what are we doing to keep them happy and wanting to stay in the trades and doing the things we do? Because I like to tell the guys that there's no shortage of good ideas and new inventions nowadays, but there is a shortage of people who want to do the work. And so we've got to figure that part out.
And now when you're talking about the baby boomers, you're referring to the big retirement happening over the next 3 years, where something like 70% of the industry will be retired by 2022, 2023, something like that. I've heard it called the big crew shift is another shift, or the shift change, or crew change, I guess. I can't remember the exact wording, but I've heard it called the big shift crew change, and then the retirement issue. That's what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen numbers, 10,000 people a day are retiring and things like that. And I've done a fair amount of research, even just on the number of businesses that owners will be exiting or liquidating or things like that from that generation. And you look at the retired assisted living industry, and it's just exploding right now, so those are all indicators that anybody who isn't focusing on culture and taking care of their people and making working sexy again is going to be in big trouble in 5 years. They're not going to have anybody to work for them, I think.
I agree. I totally agree that is a big thing, is workplace culture. The reason I keep doing what I do, and whether I'm making money or not, and there's a lot of times where I'm not making any money, it's because I love what I do. I really enjoy what I do. I like having community events and barbecues and churches come on and talk, and interviews like yourself, that sort of thing, that want to help promote this type of thing. I do it because I just love the essence of capitalism that the energy industry continues to deliver, And it goes back to the purpose part. I think if you can connect with somebody's purpose, you can make work fun. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, man. We'll give that website out one more time.
redriver.team.